could be on the move. I mean, he is a bona fide one. You see in the years of his years in Philly, he's a 1,000-yard receiver every single year of his career there. I mean, but it's starting to decline a little bit the past 2 seasons as compared to 2022 and 2023. He's also been a touchdown machine. I mean, he's just a reliable target that you're not going to want. Anybody would love to have on their team, talent-wise. And now A.J. Brown has been adding fuel to the fire.
An NFL insider just dropped a bombshell that could change everything for Shedeur Sanders and the Cleveland Browns. Jimmy Haslam is reportedly preparing to pull the trigger on a blockbuster trade. Jeudy and a first-round pick to Philadelphia for A.J. Brown, a bona fide WR1 who's been publicly frustrated and begging to get out of Philly. This isn't just speculation anymore. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler confirmed the Browns are actively in the trade market for A.J. Brown, and the pieces are falling into place perfectly. Think about it for a second. Shedeur Sanders finally gets a true number 1 receiver, someone who can actually separate, catch contested balls, dominate in the red zone, and take the top off a defense. Jeudy, who's been nothing but a disappointment and a locker room distraction since arriving in Cleveland, gets shipped out before he can do any more damage to this franchise. And here's the kicker. The Browns still have their top 5 pick to go grab an elite offensive tackle like Kelvin Banks Jr. or Will Campbell to actually protect their franchise quarterback. This is the exact kind of aggressive win-now move that Andrew Berry has shown he's willing to make throughout his tenure. We've seen it with Amari Cooper, we've seen it with Deshaun Watson, we've seen it with the Odell Beckham Jr. trade back in the day. The Browns don't shy away from blockbuster deals when they see an opportunity to upgrade their roster. And right now, with A.J. Brown publicly frustrated in Philadelphia, with the Eagles willing to absorb a $20 million cap hit to move on, and with the Browns desperately needing a legitimate WR1 to pair with Shedeur Sanders, this trade makes too much sense not to happen. But let's pump the brakes for just a second and break down exactly what's happening here, because this situation is layered with drama, controversy, and some serious front office maneuvering that could define the next 5 years of Cleveland Browns football.
Asked about this by reporters, and he said in that moment where I'm just talking to my friend, having fun with my friend, I'm not apologizing for that. If you have eyes, you could see that. And so it's not like I was throwing anybody under the bus. I'm literally just trying to laugh through this. This is tough, but I'm trying to make fun of the situation and try to get through it. He's pissed off in Philadelphia. It's evident. And they've started to involve him a little bit more the past couple.
First, let's talk about A.J. Brown and why he's even available in the first place. This dude is 28 years old, still in his prime, and has been one of the most consistent wide receivers in the entire NFL since he got to Philadelphia. Every single year he's been with the Eagles, he's been a 1,000-yard receiver. Every single year. He's been a touchdown machine, a reliable target in critical moments, and the kind of guy that defenses have to game plan around or he'll absolutely destroy you. But something's clearly broken in Philadelphia, and it's not A.J. Brown's talent, it's the situation around him. Earlier this season, Brown went on record telling fantasy football owners to drop him because he wasn't getting enough targets. That's not a joke. That's not him being funny. That's a star receiver publicly expressing frustration with his usage in the offense. Then it got worse. A.J. Brown went on a Twitch stream with some guy named Janky Rondo. I'd never heard of him either, but that's beside the point. And when asked how everything was going, Brown's response was brutally honest. No, where have you been? My family's good, but everything else, no, it's terrible. He laughed it off, tried to play it cool, but you could see the frustration seeping through. When reporters asked him about it later, Brown doubled down. He said he wasn't apologizing for venting to a friend, that he was just trying to laugh through a tough situation, and that anyone with eyes could see what was happening in Philly. Translation, A.J. Brown is done with the Eagles. He's frustrated with the play calling, frustrated with his role, frustrated with Jalen Hurts' inability or unwillingness to get him the ball consistently. And when a star player starts publicly airing grievances like that, it's only a matter of time before the organization moves on. The writing is on the wall. Philadelphia is going to trade A.J. Brown this offseason, and the Browns need to be first in line. Now let's talk about what this means financially, because this isn't just about talent, it's about the business side of football. A.J. Brown is due $50 million in cash over the next 2 years. For a bona fide WR1, that's actually very manageable. That's not some albatross contract that's going to cripple your cap space. That's a fair market rate for an elite receiver who's still producing at a high level. And here's the best part for Cleveland. If the Eagles trade him before June 1st, they absorb a $20 million cap hit. That means Philadelphia has a financial incentive to move him sooner rather than later, which gives the Browns leverage in negotiations. This is where Jerry Jeudy comes into play. Look, let's just be real for a second. Jerry Jeudy has been a disaster in Cleveland. The Browns gave up a 5th and a 6th round pick to acquire him from Denver, and what have they gotten in return? Inconsistent route running, dropped passes in critical moments, public frustration on the sidelines, and a guy who's supposed to be a WR1 but plays like a WR3 on most Sundays. Jeudy is not a number 1 receiver. He's not even a number 2 receiver on a playoff caliber team. He's a complimentary piece at best, and the Browns need to cut their losses before this becomes a long-term problem.
He's on the team. If he's on the team, what's the plan? And this is where the biggest problem lies for me, especially being a coach. What's the plan for this? What's the plan? There's no sure information. Here's why we rolling. This is what's going on. Everything's hush, hush, hush. And I don't mind as a devil's workshop. So my problem that I'm really having is, where does Shedeur Sanders fit in this scheme? At one point, like I say, Zappy.
But here's the genius of this trade. Instead of just cutting Jeudy or letting him walk in free agency for nothing, the Browns can package him with a 1st-round pick and send him to Philadelphia as part of the deal for A.J. Brown. The Eagles get a younger receiver who can slot in alongside Devonta Smith, who, by the way, might be a WR1 on some other teams, but is clearly the second option in Philly, and they get draft capital to continue building their roster. Meanwhile, the Browns get an immediate upgrade at the most important offensive skill position and still have their top 5 pick to address the offensive line. Let's talk about that for a second, because this is where the trade becomes a home run instead of just a good move. The Browns have 2 first-round picks this year, their own, which is likely going to be in the top 5, and the pick they acquired from Jacksonville, which is going to be somewhere in the late teens or early 20s. If you're Andrew Berry, here's what you do. You package the Jacksonville pick with Jerry Jeudy and send both to Philadelphia for A.J. Brown. That gives the Eagles a 1st-round pick and a young receiver to work with, and it allows you to keep your top 5 pick to draft an elite left tackle. Think about what that does for Shedeur Sanders. You're giving him legitimate protection up front with a day 1 starter at left tackle, and you're giving him a legitimate weapon on the outside who can win one-on-one matchups, create separation, and be a consistent target in the passing game. That's how you set up a young quarterback for success. That's how you accelerate the development of a franchise cornerstone, and that's exactly what the Browns should be doing right now if they're serious about building around Shedeur Sanders for the long term. Now, I know what some of you are thinking. Is A.J. Brown really worth a 1st-round pick when he's 28 years old and his numbers have been declining the past 2 seasons? Let me address that head on, because it's a fair question. Yes, Brown's production has dipped slightly compared to his monster 2022 and 2023 seasons, but let's not act like he's fallen off a cliff. He's still on pace for over 1,000 yards this season, despite being clearly frustrated with his role and his usage. His touchdown numbers are down, sure, but that's more a reflection of A.J. Brown's offensive philosophy and play calling than it is a reflection of A.J. Brown's abilities. Put A.J. Brown in Cleveland with Shedeur Sanders throwing him the ball, and I guarantee you he's back to being a top 10 receiver in the NFL. Why? Because Shedeur is going to feed him. Shedeur is going to give him opportunities to make plays. Shedeur is going to trust him in critical moments. And when you give a talent like A.J. Brown consistent opportunities, he's going to produce. That's just who he is as a player. Compare that to Jerry Jeudy, who's getting targets in Cleveland and still can't produce consistently. Jeudy had his opportunity to be the guy, and he failed. He had his chance to step up and be a legitimate number 1 option for this offense, and instead he's been mediocre at best and a liability at worst. The Browns need to move on, and trading him as part of a package for A.J. Brown is the perfect way to do it.
Take our first from Jacksonville, the later one, and we'll throw in Jerry Jeudy. A little wide receiver 1 swap, because you're going to want to get something in return. They got Devonta Smith over there, who might be a 1 on some other teams, so I think they do fine with Jeudy, and we give him a 1st. We get A.J. Brown. We get our wide receiver, folks. What do you think about that?
Let's talk about the Browns' history of making these kinds of moves, because this isn't new territory for Cleveland. This franchise has shown time and time again that they're willing to be aggressive in the trade market when it comes to acquiring wide receivers. Go all the way back to 2018 when John Dorsey was the GM. He traded for Jarvis Landry and immediately made him one of the highest-paid receivers in the league. Then in 2019, the Browns shocked the NFL world by trading for Odell Beckham Jr., sending Jabril Peppers and multiple picks to the New York Giants. At the time, it looked like a massive win for Cleveland. OBJ was one of the most dynamic playmakers in football, and pairing him with Baker Mayfield seemed like a recipe for offensive fireworks. Obviously, that didn't work out the way anyone hoped. Odell got injured, never really meshed with Baker, and eventually forced his way out of Cleveland. But the point is, the Browns weren't afraid to pull the trigger on a blockbuster deal when they saw an opportunity to upgrade their roster. Fast forward to 2022, and Andrew Berry goes out and trades for Amari Cooper, bringing in a legitimate WR1 who proceeded to lead the AFC North in receiving yards every single year he was with the Browns. That was a home run trade. That's the kind of move that changes the trajectory of your offense. Then last year, the Browns traded a 5th and a 6th round pick for Jerry Jeudy. Okay, maybe not a blockbuster, but it was still an attempt to go out and get another weapon for the offense. The problem is, Jeudy hasn't lived up to the billing. He's been more problems than production. And now the Browns have an opportunity to flip him in a deal that actually makes sense. This is what aggressive front offices do. They don't sit back and wait for talent to fall into their lap in the draft. They identify opportunities in the trade market and they strike when the iron is hot. Right now, the iron is scorching. A.J. Brown is frustrated in Philadelphia. The Eagles are willing to move on and absorb the cap hit. The Browns have the draft capital to make it happen. And most importantly, Shedeur Sanders desperately needs a legitimate WR1 to take this offense to the next level. So here's my proposed trade, and I want to hear what you think in the comments. The Browns send Jerry Jeudy and the late first-round pick from Jacksonville to Philadelphia. In return, they get A.J. Brown. That's it. That's the deal. The Eagles get a young receiver to pair with Devontae Smith, they get a first-round pick to continue building their roster, and they get out from under the A.J. Brown situation before it gets even messier. The Browns get an elite WR1 who's still in his prime, they get rid of a receiver who's been more trouble than he's worth, and they still have their top 5 pick to address the offensive line.
It's the risk you take when you draft a Shedeur Sanders in the 5th round when you already have a plethora of quarterbacks to go along with it.
Chris, one of the questions I got during the break on PFTPM was to identify all the quarterbacks throughout the league who are on the hot seat this year.
Yeah.
And for Cleveland, I said all of them. There's a chance all of them will be gone next year or not in position to start. I mean, with Dylan Gabriel and Shedeur Sanders, they have.
Would you accept that trade if you're the Browns? Type A for accept, type D for decline in the comments. But honestly, the more I think about this, the more I love it for Cleveland. You're getting a massive upgrade at the most important skill position on offense, and you're not sacrificing your ability to protect Shedeur Sanders by using both first-round picks on non-offensive line positions. Let me paint you a picture of what this offense could look like in 2025 if this trade goes through. You've got Shedeur Sanders under center, a legitimate franchise quarterback who just threw for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns against the Titans in his 3rd career start. You've got A.J. Brown on the outside as your WR1, a guy who can win contested catches, run after the catch, and be a red zone monster. You've got Elijah Moore in the slot, who's been one of the most underrated receivers in the league this year. You've got David Njoku at tight end, who's been a consistent safety valve and red zone threat. And you've got a first-round offensive tackle protecting Shedeur's blind side. That's a playoff caliber offense. That's an offense that can compete with anyone in the AFC. That's an offense that gives Shedeur Sanders the tools he needs to become a top 10 quarterback in this league. And all it takes is one phone call from Andrew Berry to Howie Roseman to make it happen. Now, I want to address the elephant in the room. Is A.J. Brown going to be happy in Cleveland? Is he going to buy into the culture, or is he going to create the same kind of drama he's been creating in Philadelphia? Look, I'm not going to sit here and pretend that A.J. Brown doesn't have attitude issues. He clearly does. He's frustrated when he doesn't get the ball, and he's not afraid to let people know about it publicly. But here's the thing. That frustration is coming from a place of competitiveness. With A.J. Brown, there's no learning curve. He's been one of the best receivers in the NFL for years. He knows how to beat press coverage. He knows how to run routes at an elite level. He knows how to be a safety valve for his quarterback when plays break down. He's a plug-and-play solution that makes your offense better immediately. That's the kind of move that championship-caliber teams make. And let's talk about what this does for the rest of the receiving room. Right now, the Browns' wide receiver depth chart is Jerry Jeudy, Elijah Moore, and a bunch of guys who wouldn't start on most NFL teams. If you swap out Jeudy for A.J. Brown, suddenly you've got a WR1 who demands double teams, which opens up opportunities for Elijah Moore to work out of the slot against single coverage. You've got David Njoku running seam routes up the middle with linebackers trying to cover him instead of safeties. You've got running backs getting the ball in space because defenses can't stack the box against you. That's how offensive ecosystems work. When you have one truly elite player who demands attention, it makes everyone else's job easier. And right now, the Browns don't have that guy. Jerry Jeudy isn't scaring anyone. Defenses aren't game planning around him. Defenses aren't losing sleep over how to stop Jerry Jeudy. But A.J. Brown? That's a different story. A.J. Brown is the kind of receiver that defensive coordinators have to account for on every single snap, and that opens up the entire offense. So here's what I think happens. I think Andrew Berry has already had preliminary conversations with the Eagles about what it would take to get A.J. Brown. I think those conversations have been productive, and I think both sides are interested in making something happen. I think the Eagles are going to wait until after the season to officially put Brown on the trade block, but I think they've already made it clear internally that they're willing to move on if the right offer comes along. And I think the Browns are going to be that right offer. I think they're going to package Jerry Jeudy with that late first-round pick from Jacksonville, and I think they're going to land A.J. Brown before free agency even starts. Then, with their top 5 pick, they're going to draft an elite left tackle, whether that's Kelvin Banks from Texas, Will Campbell from LSU, or whoever their top-rated tackle is, and they're going to give Shedeur Sanders the protection and weapons he needs to be successful. That's how you build a championship roster. That's how you maximize the value of having a franchise quarterback on a rookie contract. That's how you take advantage of a window of opportunity when it opens up. And if the Browns don't do it, if they sit back and let this opportunity pass them by, they're going to regret it for years to come. Jimmy Haslam and Andrew Berry have a chance to make a franchise-altering move this offseason. Trading Jerry Jeudy and a first-round pick for A.J. Brown isn't just a good idea, it's the perfect move to set Shedeur Sanders up for long-term success. You get rid of a receiver who's been a disappointment, you land an elite WR1 who's still in his prime, and you still have the draft capital to protect your franchise quarterback with an elite offensive tackle. This is the kind of aggressive, win-now mentality that separates championship organizations from mediocre ones. The pieces are in place. The opportunity is there. Now it's time for the Browns to pull the trigger and give Shedeur Sanders the weapons he deserves. If you want to see more breakdowns on the Browns, Shedeur Sanders, and all the moves Cleveland needs to make this offseason, smash that subscribe button and hit the notification bell. We're bringing you the truth, the analysis, and the passion every single day. Let's ride with 12. Let's get it done.